This is the Ubot launcher by imautobots.com. And before I begin this tutorial, I want to say that if you've been using this software for some time, please watch this video or watch at least the second half of this video because it's going to explain the new features. So to start from the beginning, what Ubot Launcher does is it allows you to quickly open up different Ubot files, select the plugins that are needed for those files, and then launch Ubot 4 or 5. Now by default this change plugins will be ticked, and what this does is it automatically auto selects the plugins which are required for that Ubot file. So if I drag in a Ubot file here, it's going to automatically select, for this case, the data grid and the HTTP post plugins, because those are what are contained in the source code of this script. Now, if I were to drag in another file, which requires no plugins, it's going to deselect those plugins so that Ubot Studio will launch faster and run better. Basically, what this allows you to do is use the least amount of required plugins at one time so that Ubot Studio doesn't get bogged down, and so that it opens faster as well. One more thing while I'm here, I want to show you what the change plugins does when you untick this, which you can hit Control C to do for quicker workflow. Is it will allow you to load in a new script to launch, but it will keep the plugins that are already checked. So if I wanted to launch the script with the plugins from the other script, I can just go ahead, drag that in, or click on the open button and select the file. If I select launch Ubot 4, it's going to launch Ubot 4 with these plugins already selected, or enabled I should say. If I launch Ubot 5, it'll do the same. If I click none, it will select none of the plugins. If I click all, it will select all the plugins. And you can click here to clear out the file so that you can launch Ubot 4 or 5 without any files open. So you're basically creating a new file. Just get these out of the way. Exit, pretty self-explanatory, it just exits. Changelog, click that. In this new version, if for some reason you forget what's going on, you can just go ahead and click this link and it will open up the page where you download this, and this is where this tutorial video will be contained. If you hit settings, there's a couple things I want to go over here real quick. First of all, check your own settings against these. You can pause this video right now if you want to make sure that they're the same. They don't come like this by default. They come, all the fields are just linked to your C drive by default, but you can just go ahead and click on each of these buttons and select the proper location of the file or directory for each of these, but it will likely be the same for the first three. I should say the first four actually. What the Ubot plugin folder is, and this is what's new in 1.1, this is where your Ubot Studio plugins folder is located, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then what your plugin folder is where you actually keep all of your plugins. And what I included in version 1.1 is a plugins updater. And in this current version, it doesn't actually update the plugins for you, but it tells you which plugins in this folder are new or more up to date than the plugins in this folder. And the reason for this is I keep my plugins in Dropbox because I actually use Ubot Studio on both a desktop and a laptop, like the license agreement says you can do. And I know that many other people do as well, and sometimes I'll go and update the plugins on the desktop and then go on the laptop and it's just chaos because I don't know what happened. I don't know which plugins I updated, it could have been a week ago. I'm just not sure. And so what this does is it's more of like a plugin notifier. I called it plugin updater because in the future it probably will automatically just copy the plugins for you. but for now it doesn't do that. So I'll show you what that does. Basically what you want to do is make sure you change both of these folders. And in your plugin folder, make sure that the plugins are listed as such, basically, like they're all in one folder, all the DLL files, and not in subfolders and things like that. So if they're in subfolders, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you just reinstall those plugins that are in subfolders inside of the main folder, so that they're all in one folder, so that Ubot Launcher can check them, and that way in the future it'll be easier for you to understand which plugins have been updated or which plugins are new. So once you've done that, just go ahead and check this box, and that just enables that function. And whenever you save these settings, it's just a good idea to restart the application, because some of them require that. So I'm just going to restart this, and as you can see, immediately what happens is the plugin updater runs. If you don't have any plugins to update or any new plugins, you won't see this screen. What this allows you to do now is it allows you to open your plugins folder, and as you can see, or I'm sorry, that's the Ubot plugins folder, and then your plugins folder, and as you can see, this is where all your DLLs should be out of the folders. They usually come in folders or in zip files. Make sure they're all out, and just like that. Now what we can do from here is we can either just go ahead and launch an instance of Ubot, which the Ubot launcher isn't at that screen yet, so you're just gonna have to do the Ubot launch Ubot manually for this one time. Or what you can do as well is you can copy them from one folder to the next. In this case, I'm going to take the big table, and I'm going to take the JSON path, and I'm going to copy them from my plugins folder into the Ubot folder so that you can see how this works. So big table and JSON path. I'm just going to hit Control C, and I'm going to come over to the Ubot Studio plugins folder, and I'm going to hit Control V, and I'm going to replace it. I don't suggest deleting these, just copy and replace them. I wouldn't want to mess with that stuff too much. Oops, I clicked on the old version. My bad. So after that, you can just X out of this. Now, this update here is not in there yet, and also the JSON path is not going to be in here yet. And the reason for this is this gets the data from the Ubot options XML file, and this doesn't update until Ubot Studio is closed. And I believe you also have to open the plugins window. So what you're going to do is we're going to open Ubot Studio, verify that we installed and updated the plugins. So Bigtable we updated. So the version that we had before was 1.5. We also installed JSON path. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click None for now. I'm going to launch Ubot 5 just because it starts up faster. And then verify those plugins are installed, and then I'm going to restart both Ubot Launcher and Ubot Studio. And I know it's kind of a nuisance, but that's the only way to update the options.xml file and for Ubot Launcher to have the most up-to-date information. So we're just going to go to the plugins, and I shouldn't have chose Bigtable because I think it's actually called something else in here. Bigtable is actually called large data, so yeah, so you don't actually see large data in here. It's called Bigtable. So the version before was 1.5, and so the current version is 1.7. So it actually updated. Sorry, I just happened to choose the wrong one. But as you can see now, the JSON path parser is in here as well, whereas it's not in here yet. So we're just going to close out of this. I'm going to select these two, just so that you can see that they are installed. And as you can see, there's a function for the JSON path parser. So I'm just going to exit out. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and restart Ubot Launcher, and as you can see, that is not an update anymore, and that is not a new plugin anymore. And I'm just going to X out of this for now, but that is a quick way to install it. Of course, the other way to do it is to just launch Ubot Studio on its own, and then just keep this window open. Go ahead and update whatever you need to update and add whatever you need to add, and you're done. Just make sure when you're done, you restart Ubot Studio and you restart Ubot Launcher, and you're going to have the most up-to-date versions. And here, as you can see, the big table is now 1.7. So that's it for Ubot Launcher.